Jaya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 46. Ayam tu Brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udaditaha Vini sadadano yatra Sarga prakrita vaikritaha Ayam tu Brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udaditaha Vini sadarano yatra Sarga prakrita vaikritaha Ayam tu Brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udaritaha Vidi sadarano yatra Sarga prakrita vaikritaha Ayam. This process of creation and annihilation. To but Brahmana of Brahma. Kalpa is one day. Savikalpa along with the duration of the universes. Udaritaha exemplified. Vidi regulative principles. Sadarana in summary. Yatra wherein. Sarga creation. Prakrita in the matter of material nature. Vaikrita disbursement. Translation. This process of creation and annihilation described in summary herein is the regulative principle during the duration of Brahma's one day. It is also the regulative principle in the creation of Mahat, in which the material nature is dispersed. Now, Prabhupada gives quite a lengthy purport here, so just bear with us while we read through it. There are three different types of creation called Mahakalpa, Vikalpa, and Kalpa. In the Mahakalpa, the Lord assumes the first Purusha incarnation as Karanakshaya Vishnu, with all the potencies of the Mahatattva and the 16 principles of creative matter and instruments. The creative instruments are 11, the ingredients are 5, and all of them are products of Mahat or materialistic ego. These creations by the Lord in his feature of Karanakshaya Vishnu are called Mahakalpa. The creation of Brahma and dispersion of the material ingredients are called Vikalpa, and the creation of by Brahma in each day of his life is called Kalpa. Therefore each day of Brahma is called a Kalpa, and there are 30 Kalpas in terms of Brahma's days. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8:17 as follows: Sahasra Yuga Payantam Mahayad Brahmino Vidu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojana. In the upper planetary system, the duration of one complete day and night is equal to one complete year of this earth. This is accepted even by the modern scientists and attested by the astronauts. Similarly, in the region of still higher planetary systems, the duration of day and night is still greater than in the heavenly planets. The 4 yugas are calculated in terms of the heavenly calendars, and accordingly are 12,000 years in terms of the heavenly planets. This is called a Divya Yuga. And 1,000 Divya Yugas make one day of Brahma. The creation during the day of Brahma is called Kalpa, and the creation of Brahma is called Vikalpa. When Vikalpas are made possible by the breathing of Mahavishnu, this is called the Mahakalpa. There are regular and systematic cycles of these Mahakalpas, Vikalpas, and Kalpas. In answer to Maharaj Parikshit's question about them, Sukadeva Goswami answered in the Prabhaskanda of the Skanda Purana, and they are as follows, and starting with Patama, Sveta Kalpas Cha, and there's a long line of these verses from this particular Shastra called the Skanda Purana, where Sukadeva Goswami is quoting. And the 30 Kalpas, now these are the days of Brahma, and according to the different personalities or events in the days of Brahma, they're given certain names. I'll just read through these quickly. There are 30 Kalpas of Brahma. 30 days of Brahma make 1 month. Sveta Kalpa, Nilalohita, Vamana, Vamadeva, Gantatara, Aurora, Prana, Briyat Kalpa, Kandaba, Sadyata, Ishana, Jnana, Sarasvata, Udana, Garuda, Korma, Narasingha, Samadhi, Agneya, Vishnuja, Sora, Somakalpa, Bhavana, Supuma, Vaikuntha, Achisha, Avalikalpa, Vairajya, Gaurikalpa, Maheshwara, and Paitrikalpa. There are all 30 of them. These are Brahma's days only, and he has to live months and years up to 100. So we can just imagine how many creations there are in kalpas only. Then again, there are vikalpas, which are generated by the breathing of Mahavishnu, as stated in the Brahma Samhita, Yasyaika nishpashati kalam atavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jaganandanata. The Brahmas live only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu, so the exhaling and inhaling of Vishnu are Mahakalpas, and all these are due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for no one else is the master of all creations. So all this section now, we're coming to the end of the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's very kind of technical information here about all the different creations and destructions of the universes. And there's many different types of them, and this is on the cosmic level. A little bit of a cosmic wind today. Of course, there is in the different destructions in the days of Brahma, there is a wind that blows, howling wind. That's a lot, about 10,000 times worse than this one. So, but anyway, this is the pralaya. So there's creation and there's annihilation. Jatasya dhruvam mrityu dhruvam janmamitasya. So this birth, this death, not only comes with our own bodies, our bodies are born and our bodies die, but it also happens on the macro level, on the cosmic level, on the universal level. And so there's birth of the universe, and then there's the death of the universe. And so everything goes on a different time scale than what we're used to. And and it's all relative. Time is relative according to the person who is experiencing life and activities on their particular level. So you have insects, their life is very short. Some insects only live a few days, but that's their whole life. So they're born and then they'll die. So that Krishna tells Arjuna, Jatasya dhruvam mrityu dhruvam janmamitasya. As there's birth, there's got to be death, and when there's death, there's birth again. So people are very caught up in this on the tiny level, insect level, and some only live for a few hours, some a few weeks, few months. Cats, dogs, birds all have the birth, all have the death. The humans have the birth and the death, and there are beings on higher planetary systems. They have birth and death. Now here it is mentioned, wasn't it, that what is it? How long do they? Oh no, this is in the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, one day of Brahma. Now, so there are many. Our years on Earth, our thousands of years on Earth is just like one day in the heavenly planets. And then, you get higher planets above the heavens. There are different levels of planetary systems. So, the heavenly planets have a certain duration, and then there's other planets even higher, going right up to the planet of Lord Brahma, which is the highest planet in this universe. And that duration of... Now, Lord Brahma, he lives for 311 trillion 40 billion Earth years. 311 trillion. So, but that's his 100 years. So everything is relative. The ant lives for a certain amount of time. That's the life of the ant. And the demigods like Indra and Chandra, they have their life, we have our life, Lord Brahma has his life. But the main point here is that the duration, as Prabhupada says, the duration of even the universe is limited. It's limited. It's not unlimited. Although in this particular section of Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada quotes from the 8th chapter, Parastasmattu bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatana yasa sarushabhuteshu nasyatsu navinasyati. There is another nature, an unmanifest nature, we can't see it, beyond this world. And that has no beginning and has no end. That is eternal. Parastasmat tabhavonu vyakto. Vyakto and avyakta. That which is manifest and that which is unmanifest. So matter is manifest and it becomes unmanifest to our eyes. But there is a part, there is a nature that is beyond all this. That is the spiritual nature. That is eternal. And here, avyakto charas ityuktas tamhu paramam gatim. That is the paramam gatim, the supreme destination for the Vedantists, the spiritualists who want to go back to the original nature of spirituality. They don't want to identify anymore with material life, material activities. This is very rare for someone in the material world. For the conditioned souls, the Jiva Bhuta, the conditioned souls, generally you and I are conditioned by this nature. We identify with it, and therefore we identify with the birth and the death and so on. Then there are the transcendentalists, here is described, the Vedantists who are actually transcendentalists. And they are not interested in that anymore. They are very seriously practicing their spiritual life. And they are going for the eternal activities of a spiritual nature that is beyond the material world. And paramam gatim, once they have attained it, Krishna says this to Arjuna, they never return here to this material world. Why would you? To the material world, where this is all temporary and all in flux, constantly moving around, going all over the place. And the main point of these verses that we're reading here in the Bhagavatam, that everything that happens all points back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to Krishna. It all points back. It's all these, and as mentioned also, it's very systematic. And it goes on under, there's all regulative principles and systems to it. And it is stated here about the life of Brahma, all these different types of creations, what's called the Mahakalpa, the Vikalpa, and the Kalpa. These terms are used. The Mahakalpa is the original coming from the Vishnu, Mahavishnu, the breathing of Vishnu. All the universes are generated. And this is called a certain age of existence of the material world. And it's called the great age, the Mahakalpa. Kalpa is like an age, and the age of creation. And so this is the Mahakalpa. And then the Lord expands himself. This has been stated many times over in these classes and in these verses. The Garbhodak showed another Vishnu expands from that big Vishnu, Mahavishnu, and he enters every universe. And this is another Kalpa, it's called Vikalpa. And from that, the Vishnu, of course, Lord Brahma comes, and then he has his creation. This is another Vikalpa, a Kalpa. So each day of Brahma is called a Kalpa. So each day is made of yugas. The devotees are very familiar with these terms. Maybe some of the people, new people who are coming, are not very familiar, but the kalpas and mahakalpas and vikalpas and so on, and then yugas. And what is a yuga? A yuga is like an age, and we're living in the Kali Yuga, the age now. This is our age. It's called the Iron Age because it's a very base type of age compared to the other yugas like the Satya Yuga. This is mentioned in the Sahasra Yuga Payan Tamahaya Brahmano Vidu Rattim Yuga Sahasrantam Tehe Yatra Vido Jana. This is mentioned now. This age lasts for how many years? How many earth years? Who can say? What is it? 432,000 years. This is the duration of this yuga, this age we're living in. And how many years have we gone into it? 5 years. We're at the beginning of it. We've gone 5 years in. No, we've gone 5,000 years into the age of Kali Yuga. So that means how many more are there? Huh? 427,000 years to go in this age. A long time, isn't it? 427. So before this age, there was another age, the Dwapara Yuga. And before that age, there was another age. There was the Treta Yuga and the Satya Yuga. Now, Prabhupada in his purport, in this Sahasra Yuga Paya, he says, now the cycle of these four yugas, these four yugas and 1,000 of them make just one day of Brahma. So 432,000 in this age. Now in the first of the ages, that is 1,728,000 years. Now here, Prabhupada explains, in that age, practically there was no ignorance, there was no vice, truthfulness was strong, self-realization was strong, people were just living in the world, just taking care of their necessities, but the priority was spiritual advancement. That was the Satya Yuga. It was called, and because of that, it was called the Golden Age. The Golden Age. That was a long time ago, many billions of years ago. The Satya Yuga. And then after that, the next Yuga. And here Prabhupada describes it very nicely. It was a decline in virtue, and a decline in spiritual practice, just a little bit from the first age. That is the second age, and that lasts for 1,296,000 years. And then the next age, so vice, irreligious practices increase. That lasts for 864, and then the next age is the current age, is the Kali Yuga, this age, materialism and so on and so forth. People now, all this information is given because on this cosmic level, it is a far greater level, and beyond this universe, this cosmos, there's many millions and trillions of universes coming from the Mahavishnu, and it's very great, very expansive and gigantic. We can't even conceive of it, but an idea is given just to take us out of our level of just focusing on in a very narrow way on our own activities. People, as they become more and more in ignorance, they become more concerned just with their own sphere of activities. And they become so absorbed in that they have, and as you go down in the species of life, even that becomes more prominent. They're more self-absorbed individuals, very, very self-absorbed. Now, even on the human level, there are many who are very, very self-absorbed individuals. That is a very much a symptom, a predominant symptom of the mode of ignorance. It's not considered, to be higher on the mode of what's called the sattva guna, the mode of goodness, where knowledge is expansive. Your knowledge expands more and more and more to just beyond yourself or your immediate interests. People, unfortunately, in this Kali Yuga, that is very much prevalent. That in Kali Yuga, people are very concerned with basically just themselves and a peripheral sphere of activity, maybe your immediate family, a few of your friends. Actually, I read a long time ago that that mostly people, even if they only have a real small sphere of real friends. You have acquaintances, but your actual close friends that you really interact with, most people, there are exceptions, those who have a lot of friends, but most people have a very small sphere, 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. And they interact mainly with those people for the majority of them. And that changes throughout the life. You had your childhood friends. And in your childhood and in your youth, you thought that you would be with them forever. But, as you get older, things change. And I've mentioned this before. Time changes. You change, they change, circumstances change. So this all is, the impetus for all this is time. Time changes things. It's a manifestation. It's an aspect of the Supreme Personality of God, as Paramatma. The Supreme Lord, as time, acts and changes things around, because the nature of the world, it's in flux. It's always moving around, changing around. And it's to fulfill desires. There's another reason behind it all. It's a greater reason that Krishna knows about that. And he arranges all those things that then moves around. So living entities can experience different things in different ways. So it's always in flux. So it moves around, changes things. So your childhood friends, very rarely one keeps companionship with childhood friends in later life. You move on. People move on. So at the time you thought, well, we're going to be doing this forever. We're going to be friends forever, but then things change. You may meet someone else, maybe you get a partner, you have a family, so then your primary focus is your family. The other friends kind of fall off. So then, as you get older, the children grow up and they go their own way, and then that's not so much of a concern as it was before. Then you start looking around for other friends. And in your older age, maybe you'll swap, you'll have the friends you'll bring in, and you'll have your dogs and your cats and so on and so forth. So, but it's a very small sphere, very small sphere. So we're very caught up on that, self-absorption. And it's actually called self-deception, because it's just temporary, it's illusory, ultimately, because it's reality, because you're living in that. And when you're living in it, then you'll be experiencing so many things. But ultimately, it's illusory, because, it has to go. You can't take any of those people with you, can't take any of the things that you've amassed during your life. Even during your life, you lose them, and so on and so forth. And certainly at the time of death, you have your house, you have your car, but those things, you can't take your house with you, you can't take your car with you, so on and so forth. So as you go in more mode of ignorance, you become more self-absorbed, and then you get to the lower species of life, where they're so self-absorbed that they just know about their own eating and just survival. They just know about eating and drinking, and some species of life, they're not even so much concerned with their own family members. It's just about themselves. Just about themselves. And that's very much predominant in the lowest, as you go down and down and down in the species. Now, humans who are in the mode of ignorance, unfortunately, are self-absorbed, but there's more to life than that. There is spirituality, there is life beyond the world even, beyond this world, beyond the material world. So this is the point of these verses to, first of all, Parikshit Maharaj was asking these questions to Sukadeva Goswami, and he's giving an idea and very specifically stating Lord Brahma's life, the heavenly life, and so on and so forth. And in the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, the Prabhupada quotes the different yugas, this Kali Yuga, and everything. So we have the ages. Now, at the end of this age, what happens at the end of this age? Who comes? Kali? Kalki. Kali's already here. Kalki, the Kalki avatar. During the ages, different avatars come, different representations of the Supreme Personality have come and try to instruct people to bring them up to the higher levels. And then at the end of this age, Lord Kalki comes, and it is not that people won't want to understand spiritual life, but they won't be able to do it. They just won't have the capacity. And it is mentioned that people will become very, very animalistic, bestial at the end of this age. Of course, that's 427,000 years away. You know, but you can kill or be killed type of civilization. Kill or be killed. And so it degenerates to that. And, you know, right through the ages, the Lord comes and he sends his representatives to give spiritual instruction for those who are inclined, who are sincere, to want to understand that. In Kali Yuga also, the Lord has come, but at the end of the Kali Yuga, people will so degenerate so much, they'll be so absorbed in animalistic activities that their brain won't be able, even if they won't even want to try to understand. And even if they try to understand, they won't have the capacity. Their brain won't have the capacity. Even if someone were to stand in front of them and talk about spiritual life, they won't be able to understand. They'll just get a blank stare looking at them like that. You know, certain people you meet these days, they give you the blank stare when you talk anything spiritual. It's just what? So they just can't get it. They just don't get it. And some people don't want to get it. They're not interested. That's up to them. And some, you know, even they try, they just can't get it. And then now, as I said, at the end of the age, they won't be able to. The intelligence won't be there. The brain capacity won't be there to understand it. So that time, and everything will be degenerated to such a horrible level. Well, we're seeing it even now, but you can imagine another 427,000 years from now, it's going to be like. And so the Prabhupada actually mentions here, only the less intelligent really want to stay in this material world. And so your actions that you perform in this life will give you a certain karma, and then you'll come back in another life and you'll suffer and enjoy due to your karma. I was reading the story of you don't want to come back like someone like this story I was reading about Baba Sharma. Baba Sharma was a Brahmana, but a Brahmana was a very priestly and spiritual personality, but he wasn't acting like that. And he was a very kind of horrible person, very greedy person, and he liked to drink a lot. Especially he was very addicted to a type of a wine made from date palm, from the date palm tree, and from the date and the palm tree itself you can make a wine from it, and he was very addicted to that. And one time he went somewhere and he was so drunk from drinking this wine that it was just, he was like paralytic. What's the word? What? Paralytic. You remember that, Ram? You're paralytic. That's, I can't remember that word used a lot in our youth. So he was paralytic. It means you're just lying around. And he was paralytic. He was so drunk and he was still drinking, and it was coming out of his mouth. And it was like all over him. And he got very sick. He got dysentery. He got chronic dysentery. And he got so sick, he died from that, from the alcohol poisoning. And he died. And he came back as a date palm tree. You know, so attached to the wine, Krishna thought it might be a good idea to come back as a whole tree. So, anyway, he came back as a tree. And I always remember Prabhupada. I remember in Burnett Street in St Kilda, there was just that one tree in the backyard. There was all concrete. There was no grass. There was one tree. He said that was the former owner. So attached to this house, came back as a tree in the backyard. Anyway, so you can come back as a tree. It just depends what you really get attached to and how you live your life. That's your karma. So he came back as a tree. So he was living in a tree life for a long time, but he had some sort of memory of his previous life, some quirk there in his karma. Normally you can't remember. But he had some memory, so he was living like that and really kind of suffering, remembering what he was before. That's one of the reasons you don't remember, because it'd be pretty tough to take. I mean, if you could remember, if you were in a better position, then you had to be like something suffering position. Anyway, he could remember, but so he was really suffering. And then there was some ghost came under that tree. Ghosts, as I mentioned before, like to live in trees. It's one of their favourite places. And they were under the tree. Now they had a history too, that they were Brahmanas also. But they were very cruel and greedy and used to give a lot of trouble to other people. And so because they gave trouble to other people, they came back as ghosts. And ghosts, there was some type of ghost that liked to give trouble to other people. You know, when people come in their area, they like to cause all sorts of mischief. And you know, if some of them have got powers to move things around and create noises, and someone comes in and boo, you know, they laugh. They're like, whoa. So ghosts can be like that, some mean ghosts. So they were kind of like that. But they remembered their past life. They were Brahmins. Actually, in their former life, they were quite learned. They were husband and wife. Husband and wife. So the two of them came back as ghosts. So they came back and they were lamenting their position also. And they were quite learned in the Shastra, but they had this streak in them, very greedy, caused trouble to other people. So because of that, they did that a lot, and they came back as ghosts. So then the wife was talking to the husband in the tree, who Baba Sharma was that tree now. And she was saying, you know, this is such a suffering, you know, how can we become free of that? And the husband said, he actually, he quoted from the Gita, you have to know what is Brahman, and you have to know what is Supreme, what is Brahman, what is the self, what is karma, what are activities. You have to know how to become free from all that. And then she said, well, what is Brahman and what is the self? She repeated that to him, and she repeated one verse. That happened to be the first half of the first verse of the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So when she said that, the tree fell down. Baba Shama was in the body of the tree, and then Vaikuntha Vimana came for those two ghosts, and because they had recited the Gita in such a desperate manner, the Lord had decided to give them the liberation. And then Baba Shama, who came out of the body of the tree, witnessed all that and remembered that verse and went to the bank of the Ganges, practiced severe tapasya, austerities, reciting that verse over and over. And this story is told by Lord Shiva to his wife Parvati. And he said that Lord Vishnu was in the Vaikuntha and he was very pensive, and Lakshmi, his wife, said, why are you so pensive? I'm just observing the activities of one of my devotees down by the Ganga, and that devotee is practicing great tapasya and reciting a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm thinking to reward him for that. So the Lord also sent another Vaikuntha Vimana down there and sent the Vishnu Dutas, picked him up, took him back home, back to Godhead. So one can turn things around, in other words, but the point of that story is that due to your karma, you can end up in so many different predicaments. And so Prabhupada says here, why be less intelligent and stay in the material world when you've got an opportunity to elevate yourself to spirituality and transcend the material world altogether and go to spirituality. Devotees, I mean, we are living in the world and we have to live just appropriately, but ultimately we want to go beyond the material world. We're not looking to increase, and I think this question was asked by Vishnu Jan the other day about this vairagya, detachment, yukta vairagya. What is the difference between? It seems that devotees are engaging in the same activities as ordinary persons, so what is the difference? No. Well, the devotees are living in the world, but their idea, they're also simultaneously practicing spirituality. And the idea is that they're gradually becoming, their goal is to detach themselves ultimately from material absorption and material activities, especially as they're going to the end of their life. They're looking to decrease. Whereas materialists, they're generally looking to increase all these material activities. But the devotees are trying to decrease. You have to do what you need to do to live in the world. You can have a family, but especially towards the end of your life, then you're decreasing, becoming less attached to the material side of things and more attached to the spiritual. So this is the difference between, there's the difference in the direction and the goal. So this is what is stressed on, and the point of these verses is to give us an understanding of the greater levels, even within this world, and the repetition and the futility, really, of trying to remain perpetually in material life. It is constantly in flux. There's always birth and death, creation and annihilation, and even up to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma has to die. Lord Brahma, then Lord Brahma comes into existence again. There are other Brahmas who come. All this is going on. Therefore, those who are most intelligent want to go beyond all that to the spiritual abode and go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening to our class this morning. We've got a couple of minutes for questions before breakfast. Does anyone want to ask a question or make a comment in regard to today's class?
In those different levels of creation, points of creation, where does the time element appear? What does it appear? Right from the beginning?
Kala, yes. Well, Kala is always there. It's a manifestation of the Chiradakshara Vishnu and manifestation of Paramatma. So Kala is there right from the very beginning in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and but is not manifest yet. Not manifest. Kala is always a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Kala comes into being when the Pradhana, the unmanifested modes of nature, the unmanifested matter, is there before the creation, and when the creation comes, then the Kala comes. Kala also manifests. So the material creation manifests, Kala manifests, the Lord enters in and acts as Kala, and then everything is put into play in that way. Does that answer your question?
So it's present right from the beginning, just not manifest.
No, not manifest, no. Not acting. Not acting, no. All right, thank you. Hare Krishna. All right, thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.